Hi, I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Chelsea Lipford-Wolf.
Thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a like and a comment.
And be sure to share with a friend, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified of new videos.
Thanks and enjoy the show.
This week we're in Atlanta, Georgia, building a tremendous rooftop deck.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford, the voice of home improvement, with projects, tips, and ideas to help you improve your home.
As you can see, the guys are getting a great start on the framework for our new rooftop deck. Now, there's been quite a trend over the last few years for people to move back to downtown areas, and developers are finding old buildings like you see behind me perfect to renovate into apartments. Now, several years ago, this three-story building I'm standing on top of was renovated very nicely into a number of loft apartments, and the person who bought the top apartment, Cliff Sparkman, decided he'd like to develop an outdoor entertainment area for he and his family. Well, he had rooftop access, so this was the logical choice. Well, he had a few challenges in order to get approval and all of the design necessary for this, and of course, he had to choose the right materials for this type of application. Well, that's kind of the same thing you have to do no matter where you build your deck. We'll share with you some of his challenges and how he overcame them, and share with you some deck building techniques you can use no matter where your deck is. Now, normally it's not this cold in Atlanta, but once it warms up, Cliff and his family can enjoy the Georgia Dome and the skyline of downtown Atlanta. Stay with us. Yesterday was very productive for the crew, and they completed just about all of the framing for the new deck, including the bridging or blocking in between the floor joists to really stiffen things up. Right now they're concentrating on the 4x4 posts that are being installed around the perimeter of the deck. This will support all of the handrails that'll be installed once the decking material is completed. Now, earlier this morning, we caught up with the homeowner, Cliff Sparkman, and his daughters, Clara and Callie, who are pretty excited that finally something is happening on their new deck.
Cliff is a professional photographer, and the loft apartment he shares with his daughters also serves as his studio. So the girls already have an indoor playground. What they want is an outdoor space.
Well, Cliff, girls, you can kind of get an idea of what your new deck will look like now that the guys kind of have it framed up and everything. What do you think?
It's looking great. It's a little smaller than we thought, but only because it's such a big roof and you don't really get the correlation of the size until it's all in place. But it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and the view and everything is going to be great up here. Now, I know that you had to go through a bit of a process because it's an apartment building and other tenants in the building. So tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, the first thing I had to do was submit the plans from the architects to the board of directors, let them approve it, how it was going to be attached to the roof, any kind of impact that would be shown or done to the roof. Second part was to take it to the city hall and get the inspectors to look at it, look at the plans, and then they sent me across the hallway to the Urban Design Commission.
And that's kind of like the historic development aspect of the city, right?
Right. The Urban Design Commission isn't so much concerned with the safety of it. That's the building inspector's issues. They just want to make sure that nothing sticks up over the parapet of the walls so that it affects the visibility of the beauty of the neighborhood.
I see. Okay. Well, I know Callie and Clara have their ideas of some of the activities they have planned for the roof, but as a family, what do you guys plan on using this as?
Well, we spend a lot of time up here. We like to cook out. We like to play.
4th of July party.
4th of July, we see a lot of fireworks. New Year's. We have a lot of. We spend a lot of time, even in the colder weather. We come up here a lot. So. And their friends love it up here. They think it's just one big playground.
Oh, I bet so. Yeah, this is great. And like I say, when the weather gets a little warmer, you'll really be able to utilize this a good bit. And girls, I know that you have to go to school, but when you get back from school, you're going to see a big difference on this deck.
Much of the work that's being done here is identical to what you would see on any deck built in a suburban backyard. But the rooftop location does offer some unique challenges, particularly in regard to the deck's foundation.
One of the challenges in building a deck on a roof like this that's unlevel is the deck needs to be level. Now, unlike your backyard that may be unlevel when you're building a deck, you can set your post and adjust your framing nice and level, but here it's a little bit more of a challenge. But to solve the problem, a buddy of mine, Dave Rott, has just the solution. Dave, tell us about how you're going to solve this little dilemma.
Well, this is a product, Danny, that's designed by Bison Deck Supports. Can be used in various applications, whether it's in a patio, on a patio or even in landscaping. But in this particular application, where it serves a good purpose is not only can you adjust for height, but you can also adjust for pitch in two different directions, whether it's on the top or on the bottom. So with a sloped roof like this one is, we need to be able to come back and dial these into place to support this deck system.
Okay, and I see you also are suggesting putting some thick pads there under it. I guess that's the same kind of material that the roof itself is made out of.
It is. It's a 1/2-inch asphalt type material that'll help cushion the blow so that we're not putting all that weight directly on the roof system.
Okay, well this should be great because you really don't want any type of fasteners going down through this roofing, because sooner or later there's going to be a leak.
Exactly, and with this, with Bison deck supports, they've designed this so that you don't have to penetrate the roofing system, so we don't void the manufacturer's warranty on rubber roofs or any other type of, whether it's torch down or other type roof systems.
And this can be used on other areas other than just roofing.
That's right. That's right. Patios, landscaping.
Well, this should make it a lot easier for the contractor. We'll keep moving along on this deck. But first, check out this week's Simple Solution.
It's time for this week's Simple Solution from home repair expert Joe Truini.
Joe, looks like your paint job's working out pretty well here.
Yeah, I'm just finishing up, trying to end the day here. I have one coat of primer on the wall, one top coat, and I'm going to let it dry and come back tomorrow and put on the second coat.
Well, it's pretty good coverage on all of that, but you probably could finish up a little quicker if you weren't snacking so much here.
Yeah, I wasn't snacking on this. This is actually an old chip tube that I saved, because I hate to clean at the end of every day, especially if you're just going to come back and paint the very next day.
Well, it takes forever, and really to clean a roller right, you've got to use that water hose and just really work on it for quite a long time.
If you don't get all the paint out, it'll paint out of the roller sleeve, it'll dry, and you might as well just throw it away.
Right.
So this is going to save me some time. You notice these tubes are almost exactly the same size as a roller sleeve.
It's like it was made for that.
Isn't that great? So I just roll off as much of the excess paint as possible, then you slide it out, pop the top back on, and that'll seal out the air. And in the morning when I come back, I can just put it back on and start rolling.
Now, I've heard of people taking rollers and putting them in the refrigerator or a freezer. I guess that would work too.
It would. In this case, since I'm going to be back here in the morning, it'll be fine just to leave it here. But if I was going to paint like another day or two, I'd probably seal it with a little plastic, put the top on, pop it in the refrigerator, stays nice and moist, and it comes out good as new. It's like you had just taken it off the roller.
Well, that saves a lot of time there.
Well, we've talked to the homeowner and we talked to one of the suppliers that are supplying the little adjustable feet for the deck. Now let's talk to the guy that's putting everything together, contractor Steve Evans. Now, Steve, you had a great day yesterday, got a lot of the framing done. Tell us about how everything went for you.
Well, we just came in here and just chalked our lines out and kind of laid out where we wanted our deck, and then we put our adjustable feet in and just did a little measuring, a little leveling, and got them like we wanted it. Then came in here and built our frame around it, and then it just kind of all fell together from there.
Now the little adjustable feet here, we spoke with Dave earlier, the supplier of those, and he told us in theory how they're supposed to work, but how do they really work?
They work great. They are absolutely some of the best tools I've used on the job. Much easier than even a home deck. You just put them under there and screw them up there to where you want them, and they're there.
Well, it's great that you don't have to penetrate the roof in any way, because I've seen a lot of roof type decks and a lot of different ways of tarring around it, but after a few years in the movement of deck, you're going to have a leak there sooner or later.
Absolutely.
So, well, you're pretty close to being ready for some decking material. What else you have to do here?
Well, they're putting in the last post here now for our railing and just doing some last minute measures and make sure everything is exactly like we want it. And then we'll go on and start doing, the final touches on the deck.
Right, okay. Well, now, putting the post in, boy, I see a lot of homeowners building decks, and sometimes they don't attach the post as securely as they should. In your opinion, what's the best way to really integrate this in as part of the deck?
Well, in my opinion, the best way I have found that works great is I take my post and I notch it back around the band, and then I take a screw and screw it in there, and then that just gives it some real good stability, and it doesn't wobble real bad, and you don't have any problems when you come up here and lean on the post. It doesn't, you don't have to worry about it falling off.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I've seen some homeowners cut it and just toe-nail it to the top of the decking, or just nail it on the outside, and boy, you have a little get-together and someone leans on the deck and you have all kinds of problems.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, well, at what stage now? I guess you're pretty much ready for the decking, huh?
Right. As soon as we get these last few measurements done, we'll start laying our decking on there, and then we'll be on the home stretch of it.
The first piece of decking will begin flush with the outer edge of the structure, so Steve is trimming off the tongue portion of this tongue and groove board to create a smooth edge. Then he marks the post locations so that they can be cut out for the board to fit over them. The tongue of each new deck board slips into the groove of the previous one and is fastened to the frame with long screws driven through the groove. As posts are encountered, the boards are notched to accommodate them and then persuaded into place. Now this makes for a lot of measurements and some pretty precise cuts, but the result is a strong deck with very clean lines. The tongue and groove design means there are no visible fasteners on the surface, and the fact that the material is composite is a big advantage. Unlike wood, there's no danger of this stuff splitting along the grain because of the placement of a cut or a screw.
The next step with the decking is to cut all of the excess material so that it's flush with the outside band. Then we can apply a skirt board to give it a nice finished appearance. Now the area between the new deck and the steps that lead down into the loft will have a platform here, a couple steps, another platform to provide that transition. That should look great. You know, this composite material is pretty neat because it really cuts and works just like regular wood, but you just don't have the maintenance that you'll have with so many types of wood, whether it's treated or cedar or redwood. It really is very easy to work with, and now they have so many components that are available to completely encapsulate every piece of the deck, because even though the treated material under it is necessary for the structural integrity of the entire deck, it's nice to cover it up wherever you can. I mentioned the skirt board will be covered up. We'll even be covering up all of the treated 4x4 posts with these post covers that slip right down over it. Then the handrails can tie right into it. And even handrails are now available made out of the same material. We'll look at that next.
Let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out this week's best new product.
This style window would look great in any room of your home, but many homeowners would cringe at the thought of having to paint or stain all these little pieces of wood. Here's something that'll make it a lot easier. It's called Quick Corners, which is simply a roll of stickers that you use to cover the glass along the edge here, and you put one in every corner. It works great on a window like this, or the popular 15 light or 10 light French doors that you see inside and outside of homes these days. And this will just stick right like this. And after you get all of your corners installed in each one of these, it really doesn't take long, certainly doesn't cost a lot, because you can get a roll of 48 stickers for only $3. Now after you get those in place, then you use your pressure sensitive painter's tape, and you finish covering up around the perimeter there, and you're ready to start painting or staining. Now, it may take you a day or two in order to finish a project like this, because you're going to have to prime it and then paint it, but that's not a problem because you can leave these on up to 14 days without any problem in removing them. Like I say, 48 stickers, only $3. You can find it right next to the masking tape in your paint department.
Well, we're at the end of our second day on our rooftop deck that we're building here in Atlanta, overlooking the Atlanta skyline, and things are working out pretty darn well. One of the main reasons, there's quite a good contractor working on this, Steve Evans. Now, Steve, you're really moving along on this thing, and I know that you're trying to get most of the handrails up, but seeing this go together a few minutes ago, it went up pretty quick. Tell us about how all of it goes together.
Well, it's a real simple operation. The balusters and all, we just cut them to an all the same length. And then the handrail, the top and the bottom part are already pre-drilled, so we just sink our screws in there, put the balusters up there and sink them in, and we got it.
Well, that's perfect if they're pre-drilled, because that way you know you're complying to the spacing requirements, because
Absolutely.
That's something I also see mistakes being made in trying to save a little money sometimes and putting them a little too wide that doesn't comply to the code, but that's certainly a safe way of doing it. And then of course I see the guys are screwing another panel together, so basically you're just screwing it together on both sides, huh?
Right, Josh and Dave here just kind of applying a little pressure to each other where they can get the balusters good and tight in the handrail. So, you know, as you can see with that handrail, when you jiggle it a little bit, it's good and stout.
Well, you know, it's kind of neat because after it's all said and done, there's really very few fasteners that are left exposed, and I know part of that is to finish the handrail. What do you have in mind on this?
Well, this particular homeowner, he's decided to go with a little wider handrail. So what we'll do is cut the top of these posts off and run our handrail all the way through, and then just put some screws in there just to secure it.
Oh, that's perfect. And what type of screw is this? Is it a stainless steel or
It's
coated?
a stainless steel 3-inch screw just to get down in the baluster real well, and that helps keep them from splitting out if someone were to bump it or something.
This really will be a maintenance-free deck then, won't
That's
it?
exactly right.
Well, look, it looks like you've got probably 15 panels or so to go. I'll let you get back to that.
All right.
Okay.
The beauty of assembling the rails horizontally is that once each baluster is positioned, gravity holds it in place while you drive the screws in. At the same time, it only takes a single screw for the top and bottom of each baluster because the rails have a small lip molded into them that keeps the balusters from turning once it's tight. The cool thing is that you get a finished look so quickly. Slip on a couple of post sleeves, measure and assemble the rail panel, set it in place and attach. Meanwhile, Steve begins laying out the lower level of the deck that will access the roof door, but we're running out of light on day 2, so the rest of the work will have to wait. Now on day 3, it's plenty cold and there's still plenty of work yet to be done. The last overhanging deck boards are trimmed, the lower platform is constructed, and the framing of the landing and the stairs get started. Now Steve is taking care to lay out these stair stringers so that the treads work out to be exactly the width of 2 deck boards. This will save time later on and fit in with the deck's clean line.
The last couple of days have been cold, but today is really cold. Windy and snow flurries are just starting to fall. Not the kind of weather you think about in Atlanta, Georgia, but you can get an idea of what the completed deck will look like with this section of railing that's all been put together. Now we have the top rail in place, which is a piece of the composite material that's 5.5 inches wide, 1 inch thick, so that'll serve as a nice top rail. Have the spindles, and all the way down at the bottom you can see the skirt board material that I had mentioned earlier, and that completely covers up that outer band that's pressure treated wood. And once this deck is complete, you're not going to see any treated wood at all. It should have a very nice looking finished appearance. Now when we come back right after our Around the Yard segment, we'll look at the finished deck, check in with the homeowner Cliff on what he thinks about the deck, and hopefully have some better weather.
Let's head outside for Around the Yard with lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley.
Well, Tricia, this is working out pretty good. I'll keep bringing the plants and you keep planting them.
Thanks for your help, Danny.
Now, how can you really go wrong with planting plants like this? I mean, they seem pretty healthy, but just put them in the ground, you've got good soil. Any problems with that?
Well, you can put them straight in the ground, but you know, there are ways to give them a little bit of a head start.
Okay, good.
And one thing that I like to do is, after digging the hole the right size, I put in a little amendment, or in this instance, a little compost, just to give a little bit of nutrition.
I see.
And then I put some water right now.
Water it before you ever even plant it?
Absolutely. Well, if you take a look at this primrose, you can see its leaves are a little bit wilty.
Yeah, it is kind of sad looking, isn't it?
It is. So when I put this in the soil, it's going to get those, get the water into the roots immediately.
Okay, well that makes sense.
And what happens with a lot of gardeners is you get involved and you think, well, I'll go back and water it at the end of the day.
Right, easy to forget, isn't it?
Easy to forget, and that sometimes at that point it's a little bit too late. So how I finish it off is I water it right now, right when I put it in this space. And then something else that I always like to do is give it just a little bit of a basin. See what I'm doing here with the trowel?
Similar to what you would do with planting a full tree.
Correct. Yeah, just a little bit of an area where when you put the water, when you pour the water there, it's going to catch it and give it a little bit more time to sit.
Well, Cliff, the weather's definitely a lot nicer today than it was a few weeks ago when they were putting the deck together.
Yeah, at least we're not getting the rain it looks like we should be getting. But
Yeah, no, a lot better. And, you know, quite a transformation here. I mean, before you just had a roof, not really a conducive place for entertaining or even walking around.
right, yeah, now we can use it and not feel guilty for walking on the roof, and people can come up and enjoy it and not feel like they're going to fall over the edge.
Exactly, and it did take that long with putting the little supports down, and then they framed it up and put all the composite material together. You're probably going to inspire some of the other people living in the building to maybe do some of the same thing here.
Well, and for such a high-tech product, it went up very quickly and it looks great, and I think a lot of people will jump on this wagon with us, hopefully.
Now, I know you use your living area and your loft area as your photography studio, but now you got almost a whole new outdoor studio
Right,
here.
yep, we can shoot up here a lot. This will be another extension to our studio for sure.
Well, thanks a lot for letting us kind of follow along on this project, and I hope you enjoyed seeing how easy it is to put together a rooftop deck. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.